What's going on? Coach Luca here from Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance. And this is kind of a slash coach, Ask Luca plus kind of coaching, but we're going to talk about how techniques, I would say methods to build more muscle in your training program. So really there's three ways that we can build muscle, and it's split into either mechanical tension. So if you're thinking about that's heavier weights, 3 to 8 reps, sometimes 5 to 12, depending on the body types, depending on the experience and things like that. Then we have metabolic tension, right, which is constant tension on the muscle. Think 12 to 20 plus reps, no full lockout, but blood constantly pumping. And then we have muscle damage, and muscle damage is either going to be eccentric, so negative load, or in volume, right? So we're going to do 12 different methods to show like how you can just kind of like supercharge your training a little bit and just change it up based on what you're doing, that implement I would say mostly some of the methods that are for, they can be for either of the three, right? So they can be either in mechanical tension with heavier stuff. Some of these methods will plug into that. A lot of them will be metabolic and negative. All right, so we're going to start off with pyramids, and I'm not going to use a ton of weight on this one, but pyramids will be something where we can build up in a pyramid. So if I was, like I said, I'm not going to load it up a ton, but if I was doing my first set with 12 to 15 reps, right, I'd rep. So let's say I hit my 12, we put on more weight, and then we go into the 8 to 6 rep range, 4 to 2, and then 1 to 2, right? So depending on how many sets you're doing per, I would say how many pyramids you're doing per set. Okay, so the other way to do it, and you've probably, seen this in as a mechanical, essentially like a drop set, not a mechanical drop set, just a drop set where we do our warm-up sets, go to our heavy single, double, or triple, whatever our workout has programmed, then we take the weight off and do more reps, and take the weight off again and do more reps, right? So that way we're building more volume into the training program, right? So that would be our pyramids. Our second method would be a pre-exhaustion set. So I'm just going to use light weights here and slide this out. So if there's stubborn muscles that we want to grow, we could do a pre-exhaustion set, whether this would be some type of lateral raises for military presses. If we're doing chest exercises, what we're doing, we're exhausting the muscle. So once we go and actually do the bench press exercise afterwards, there is more focus and more tension on those muscles that we pre-exhausted. So it's, in essence, let's say we're starting off with dumbbell flies, really concentrating on keeping the tension on the pecs. And I'm not going to do the full sets just so give you guys an idea. Right, so there, and it's not even a lot of reps, but I feel the difference. So it takes away from distributing kind of like the load more on the pre-activated, pre-exhausted muscles rather than as much triceps and shoulders. Another method is giant sets. You may have heard of these. So a lot of times it'll be three different exercises back to back for the same muscle group. I mean, we could add more than that. 3 is usually a good marker. A great one, like I said, for certain body parts, these make more sense than others. But we can do giant sets pretty much for just about everything. It just necessarily isn't smart with like what exercises do we use, right? If it's an exercise that really fatigues the low back and then to do something right after that, we got to be careful with that. But a great example here is I'm going to do a shoulder. This is a great one for them to work out. So we're going to do a shoulder giant set. So we're going to start with lateral raises. Somebody's gonna do 8 per set. Usually we go for 12 on this. Go straight to a front plate raise. And from there, straight into lateral raises. So just a quick example, what giant sets. Like I said, we're hitting 3 exercises back to back, hitting the shoulders, just switching up the exercise. This next method is I go, you go. This is fun, and it's a partner-based drill, and you can really do it with a lot of different exercises, but isolation stuff is easier. Curls, this is just a great example right now. So we be basically partnering up. I start off, and for instance, we could do pyramids up. So you go simple as like 1 partner does 1. Come back. 2 partner does 2. 3, 3, so on and so forth. We could keep straight sets. So going, I do 8 reps, they do 8 reps. But pyramids tend to do really well. Like I said, it's fun. You get the longer breaks, shorter breaks in at the beginning, and as the volume goes up, breaks become a little bit longer, and then you can go pyramid up and pyramid down. You can do this a lot with a lot of isolation exercise. This is just a great example. I go, you go. All right, so we're back with rest pause training. Sometimes you can also call these clusters. Cool thing about it, you can work these in different rep ranges. So, you know, we're talking about mechanical tension. So if I was going pretty heavy, so let's say I'd load up 275 pounds, which usually I can do in a 6 rep range or so forth. For 275, what I could do is do 3 sets of 3 clusters. Now, or 3 sets of 3 rest pauses, meaning I would do 3 reps, put the bar back up, rest for 15 seconds, do 3 reps, put it back up, rest for 15 seconds, do 3 reps. So in 1 cluster set, in 1 rest pause set, I would essentially do 9 reps with a load that I can usually do for 6. So even though we have those breaks to get that ATP, I would say give our nervous system that break, we can do a lot more volume with the heavier load. Now, in this case, I mean, I'm keeping the weight pretty light. We can also do it for high reps. So for instance, let's say I got 185 on the bar here, and you know, if it was 200, and I would rep out. So I'll pretend that my max here is, you know, 10 to 12 reps or something like that. So I'd have 15 seconds, count down 15 seconds, go back, rep as many technical, you know, to technical failure, or I should say one in the tank, 15 seconds again. So I could do 3 rest pauses in 1 set and knock out a lot of reps. Now the next method is complexes, and I've done a whole video on structuring complexes, how to use them, where to put them, and so on and so forth. With complexes, the great thing is we can get a ton of volume, right, and that muscle damage in a short period of time, especially if we do full body complexes, which are great for fat loss, right? And I'm not saying that they're not going to help build muscle, but the example that I'm going to give, so for fat loss complexes, I've done a separate video on it where we'll go from, for instance, RDLs for 8 reps to rows, from rows to cleans, right? From here we could go to front squat into thrust, back into reverse lunge and so forth. So it's very full body based. But we can also, for instance, if we're trying to add more volume for the upper body, a great way to use complexes is to do I'll say upper body drills or low body drills. In this case, I'm going to take a decently light load here, but let's say we start off with bent over rows, and we hit that for 8 to 10 reps. From there, we could, if the load was heavy, we could do somewhat of a cheek curl for our 8 to 10. From here, we could go to military presses. And the great thing about it is because we're changing the muscles used, we could go back down and hit rows again. So in a very short amount of time, we could basically hit a lot of volume for upper body using complexes. Same goes for lower body. And like I said, they're great for fat loss using full body movements and putting them together. Another method that's like very well known, negatives, right? So eccentric load. As we know, we can I would say, we're stronger on that negative portion of a lift than we are on the concentric, the positive portion. But the thing is that like this is one of the main, I said that one of the three main ways to build muscle. One of them is muscle damage. Like this is one of the best ways to do it. So it's just slower eccentrics, which usually, I mean, we could go as long as 5 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds, perfectly fine. I'm going to use this load here just to give you guys an example. And I'm using a lot of upper body stuff just because I'm trying to get extra pumping. Just so you know, that's the scenario. All right, so we're going to time it. So 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 1. All right, so that's our 4-second negatives. Now, we can do I'm going to talk a little bit about rest pause. I would say pausing at the end of sets when we do when I talk about time under tension. Here, mostly, like I said, eccentric, we can do it on pretty much anything. Certain lifts we want to be a little more careful with. The longer we do eccentrics, like I said, the more damage there is. There's cycles where we've done 9-second eccentrics with 5 reps, and it's absolutely torturous, but definitely will get you great results. One thing you do want to be careful with eccentric is not making every exercise, or should I say, not doing 5, 6, 7 different exercises for multiple sets in your workout and all having long eccentrics. It's a lot of muscle damage to recover from. So we got to make sure that we're not overdoing it, and then we can't recover. Now, so if you're only doing 1 day a week of a certain body part, and you're doing eccentrics, and not until a week later you're going to hit that, that's fine. But if you're doing multiple sessions a week with eccentrics for the same body part, I'd recommend you either do less volume or cut it out. Now the next one is time under tension, and time under tension just means the time the muscle is under tension. Most of our sets, strength sets, usually will last between 20, 30 seconds. If we extend it to 35, 45, 50 seconds, around 45 seconds is a great time frame to, or should I say 30 to 45, 50 seconds is a great time frame for building muscle. Now, there's multiple things that you can do here on the time and attention. We just showed the negatives, right? So basically, we're controlling the eccentric. At the bottom, we could do a 2-3 second pause in a stretch position, a controlled up, squeeze at the top, right? There's many different ways to do it. One of the ways to create metabolic damage is to never have a full lockout and pause. So that's just one of the ways that I'm going to show you guys to do time and tension, meaning that like when we come to the top, we don't fully lock it out because we want to keep tension on the muscle. So we go right back down. So we can control down at the bottom. We don't pause. We go right back up, but we never fully lock out. So that way, there's the constant blood pump and the oxygen isn't coming into the muscle. So I'll give you an example. I won't use a humongous load here. So as we go down, we're going to control. As soon as we're here, popping up, squeeze. I'm not really fully locking out. Already going back down, control. Squeeze, not fully locking out. So the whole time, and I'm not using a big load right now. Right, I'm just doing a couple of reps as an example. And like I said, metabolic load, we're looking at 12 to 20 plus reps. If we slow down the tempo, it doesn't even need to be that much. Like I said, if we're doing 5-second negatives with a 2-second pause, with a 2-second concentric and a squeeze at the top, 6 to 8 reps can be 50 seconds under tension. But that's one of the, like I said, if you've been doing 8 reps per set with a certain load and you run out of weights or you want to progress it but you don't want to go up to heavier weights or not ready for it yet, slow down the tempo. 3 seconds down, 1 second pause, coming back up, right? Control your time under tension. And a very simple way to do it is like if you're an athlete and you want performance, right? Then we're going to do a control down and then we're going to explode up, right? If we're working on muscle building, like bodybuilding style, then we're gonna control down, right? We're gonna pause, we're gonna squeeze at the top, like literally think mind-muscle connection, because it does matter. So we're gonna squeeze hard and then control it back down again, okay? If we wanna work on our 0 to 60 speed, once we do the eccentric, we're gonna pause, 1001, 1002, so we don't use that elastic energy and then explode out of it. Okay, so those are a couple of things that you can plug into time under tension, because once again, there's a lot of different variations of this. Actually, one of them I'm gonna throw in there that's a good one, where you can, when at the end of the set, when you are pretty much have no more reps left, to do the 8 to 10, 12 second isometric hold, right? So an example of this would be, so let's say I've got a pretty heavy load. I've just got my 12 reps done. So this is my last reps. I'm coming down to my last reps here, right? I can barely knock this one out, so I'm barely knocking it out. I come back down, and right here when I feel a ton of tension, I'm just holding 10 to 12 seconds, 15 max, right? And it should be challenging, but what are we doing? We're adding time under tension at an angle where we can hold isometrically longer than we could do the full rep, okay? All right, this one you probably know. This is old school bodybuilding style, 21s. Okay, so, and the thing is, I'm gonna do 21s first with just dumbbell curls because they're readily available, but I'll show you how you can do things like 21s with hip thrusts. I mean, you can do 21s with squats. Obviously, the loads are gonna definitely have to be modified a lot, but if you wanna build a lot of tension for muscle, this is great. So actually, these are 50s. I'll be right back. All right. I'm not getting smoked here on camera. So 21s. First 7 reps, right? Partial range of motion, halfway up. So we hit our 7. Usually we doing this with the ease bar curl bar, right? So let's say I just got to my 7th rep, right here. Second 7. Second range of motion. So we'd hit our 7 reps here, and then we do full range of motion 7. Right, so that would equal 21. So just a real quick example, how if we were doing, obviously I don't have a heavy barbell here, but if we were doing hip thrust with a heavy barbell, right, we could drive halfway up right here. So we just drive to our 7. The second 7 is just from here to lockout. And then the last 7, full range of motion. Pretty much you can tap butt to the ground. Boom. Last rep, hold 10, 15 seconds. That will smoke your glutes and hamstrings. Okay, so it just shows that you can do it with upper body, lower body, you know, more isometric exercises, more compound exercises. Great for, like I said, double kettlebell squats are great for that, right? Going down into a squat and working. We're going to go that bottom part first. So we're just going from here. Obviously, the load is not going to be able to be that big. Hit our 7. From here, we go 7 just to lock out. Our half squat. And then full range. 7. Smoking the quads, right? So now you're starting to get some ideas. This is stuff that smaller loads usually towards the end of the workout. And I'm going to explain how to use, like there's a couple of ways to add this into your training sessions. And I'll explain that at the end once we get done with all the methods. All right, the tried and true, great way also to add time under tension is 1.5 reps, and it also allows you to work usually in those weaker ranges of motion. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. You can work the strong range of motion, the weak range of motion. I'm just going to do it on a bench press right now. Like I said, today I'm doing pretty much all upper body since later on it's lower body day. But there's many different variations that you can do here. There's actually, you could also do thirds. So 1/3, 2/3, full range. I'm just going to show you 1.5 reps real quick first. So we're going to go down, halfway up, and full range. What's pretty important in these, if we want to work on muscle building, is to not do this, right? Because now we're using momentum versus actual tension the whole time. So here it's tension, tension, coming back down, and back up again, right? If we're just bouncing it off the chest, one, it's loading up the joints. Two, there's no tension in that time where the bar is bouncing, right? Like I said, there's a little more advanced techniques where we could go 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Obviously very challenging, but same thing, we're adding range of motion at that bottom. So that would be a 1.5 reps that can be modified to thirds as well. All right, so this next one is iso holds, so isometric holds. Now there's different types of holds. I'm going to explain just 3 different variations that we can do, show you one of them. I have a partner, so one of them I can't show. We have isometric, basically holds which are, let's just put it this way, where we can use an empty bar or a bar that's loaded, but put pins, right? So that we're resisting against pins. So imagine that I pushed up this bench, we'd have pins right here. I'm pushing it up and the pins are stopping me and I'm exerting as much force as I possibly can into this immovable object, right? No matter how much I move it, it's gonna be stuck, but I'm creating tension, right? So that's one way of doing it. Even though that focuses more on nervous system development and strength, it's still something that I wanted to share with you. For muscle tension, a isometric hold that is great is going with a weight that's very, very heavy, and you'd usually have partners to do this, right? Where you can eccentrically lower it to your strongest point. So when the bench press, probably right around, 2/3, you're pretty damn strong. So you may not be able to do full range of motion bench press with it, but what you can do, right, you lower it down and then just hold it. Right, we're holding it for 15, 20, 25 seconds. If we can progressively do that over time, obviously there's this progressive overload. And then you have partners that lift it up. Now, this is a little more advanced and somewhat, I don't want to say it's dangerous. Like I said, if it's done with smart exercise or with right training partners, then it's perfectly fine. All right. The third one is doing isometric holds within either just static. So let's say that this is a decently heavy load, and week 1, we're holding it for 30 seconds, right? So we'd go down here, and we'd hold it in this position, and actually pushing into the bar and holding it for 30 seconds. Usually at the end, you're actually going to feel, even though you're pushing, you're going to feel this stretch, right? And progressively, you can overload it 5 seconds per week, building up throughout a 4 to 6 week cycle, for instance. We can also do weak points through rep ranges. So if we're doing a 3-second iso hold, right, on the end of 3 or even 5, I would recommend necessarily more than that, but going down, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1001, 1002, 1003, right? And we could even go 1001, 1002, 1003, 1001, 1002, 1003, right? Where we can build in those areas of weakness and just hold isos. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do there. Like I said, pick one, stick with it for the program and progress. One of the last methods that I'm going to talk about is, some people call it German volume training. It's basically just high volume training. You've probably heard of 10 sets of 10, and with a load of 50 to 60%, or start with 50 and then progress the load over the weeks. That is a great way, like I said, to add a ton of volume. You do have to be careful about overdoing it with everything, but there's also 8 sets of 8. You got 10 sets of 10. You got 8 sets of 10. There's a lot of different variations here that you can do. But if there's lagging body parts that you wanted to bring up in a program, now be one way of adding volume to get that muscle damage to elicit muscle growth, right? That kind of like the bonus, I would say, that's beyond that is high frequency training. And high frequency training would be something that you call this like greasing the groove. There's different ways to do it. You got high frequency training where every single day you finish off. For instance, you want to bring up your arms. Every single day you add 2 to 3 sets of arms throughout the week. If you're doing that 5-6 day, that's adding 15, 18 sets of arms, which is quite a lot. Like I said, you'd modify it for whatever you need, but the frequency is there, right? So you're not doing full training sessions, but the frequency is there. A great way to build strength, which is kind of, it goes away a little bit from the frequency, is greasing the groove, meaning just doing less reps of the exercise, but doing them daily, so you're always rested. So an example would be, doing a clean and press, kettlebell military press for sets of 4 on your 5 rep max, but do it 6 to 7, 8 times throughout the day with long gaps. Like over time, you really build that neural pathway and that strength. Now, just to break this up for you, how to use these methods that I just talked about with building muscle in your program, right? There's 2 ways that I'm just going to break down and keep it really simple for you. One is undulating, meaning that like you could use in 3 workouts a week, you'd use one method. So for instance, we said mechanical tension. So you do heavier reps 1 day a week. So Monday, your full body workout. You're using between 3 to 5 or 6 reps, right, in that, or let's just say 3 to 8 reps, right? It's heavier loads. The next day you're doing metabolic, right? You're getting metabolic damage done, and that's 12 to 20 plus reps using more muscle tension techniques. Day 3 is muscular damage, so more volume or eccentric load. So each day a week would be a different type of damage, right? So that would be undulating. Concurrent would just mean you start your workout with heavier training. So your sets of 3, 4, 5, for instance, on the bench press. Then you move to, for instance, metabolic or negative, right? Or muscle damage, right? So negative. So you'd go through one session adding all those 3 ins. Neither is right or wrong. Test what works better for you, but just stick with it for a certain period of time. But all of these methods, like I said, if you've gotten stale and you're not using some of them, you want to spurt some muscle growth, these are great ways to do it. Of course, you got to get your rest in, you got to get your food right, but this will definitely help and also make your training more exciting. See you next time.